I'm unsure that what's unique about my life is worth telling.
Being a father is not that big of a deal. My content should not be as valuable as it is. However, I know that for me to want to become a father, I had to see somebody do it first. Everybody's story seems small to them until they realize that their perspective and their unique experience is valuable for someone else trying to live that same experience. What's beautiful about your situation is that you are you, and you have been called to a specific type of person that I'm not called to. In the beginning of my journey with Beleaf and fatherhood, I was very unsure whether people would like it or not. I thought my story wouldn't be valuable because it just seemed like an everyday life situation that we always live. I hung out with my kids, I spent some time working on music, my wife and I went on a sunset hike, and we came home, and that was it. But so many more people need that story because they're living outside of a normal life. So many different people would say, hey, I remember this when I was a stay-at-home parent, or I'm so glad I'm not alone. I had to introduce people to a different version of myself, which means I just had to kind of document what I did. And the perspective of a stay-at-home father, I knew was valuable. I just didn't think a lot of people would watch it. The switch came when I just put myself out there and just started to tell my story just a little bit. Everything that is very simple, like living as a stay-at-home father, I kind of made it like magic. The very small things that we did, we had more fun in the house than we did outside. When I made the decision that like I'm all in, I realized that it was only me. Like my wife wasn't all in, the kids weren't all in, you know, my bandmates weren't all in. It was just a hobby, and people were looking at me like, why are you exposing everything about your life? It seems kind of dumb, you know what I'm saying? But I knew that the most frustrating thing for me growing up, like it started from a pain point. My dad lived in California, I lived in Baltimore. My children having access to me on the daily was a phenomenon to me, and it could be a phenomenon to other people. I knew that there were a few things that I had that were unfair advantages. One, I was doing hip hop for a long time, so I had a really good relationship with some great producers. And voiceovers would sound crisp because I had a really nice mic setup. Two, I cut my own kids' hair. At the time, I twisted their dreads, which was a very beautiful cinematic experience, even though it was shot on iPhones. And three, I had a plethora of broken iPhones that I could use where the screens were cracked, but the iPhone cameras worked. And that was kind of all I needed to tell my story fully. And even though people didn't yet agree with it, I was like, the market is wide open. Like, there's nobody doing it like this. The thing that really made it like, okay, I have to go full force in this is I was like, man, I could be myself. I can honor myself getting older. The more gray hair I get, the more solidified I'd be in my career. I looked at how saturated the hip hop market was and how the older I got, the more out of place I felt. It felt like I was going deeper into a space that honored youth. It didn't honor wisdom. A lot of the rappers that were doing really successful, even though they were older, they were still acting young. And I was like, I'm not willing to lose my character for this. There was just no downside. The only downside was that I would be putting my business out there and I'd be able to be judged by a lot of different people I haven't met yet. I think the thing that makes it hard for people to be themselves and makes them not want to be themselves, they watch other people's success. So they compare themselves to like a Mr. Beast and they think, well, that's working for them, so I'll try to be really excited on camera and ready to shoot at any time, right guys? They think they have to be funny when they're not funny. One of the most important things is you gotta get to know yourself. And sometimes you don't really know what that is unless you go through like a hand, head, heart process by writing everything what is great about you down. By knowing the things that are part of your identity, your DNA, and part of your gifting. I could just be myself and be normal. One of the best ways to move forward and wherever your process is ask the people who are around you for accountability. My wife is great accountability. She said to me early on was, what's your 5-year plan? And I think that question is avoided by most people because it's almost like an insult that you don't have your stuff together, you don't have a plan. What that means really is that they are concerned about where they're going or where you're going, and they just want to know, and it's okay. So I would challenge you to ask someone in your life, hey, can I tell you my plan? And can you tell me if you would trust it if you were like my spouse? Or ask your spouse, hey, do you trust me with our plan? And here's the thing, if she says no or he says no, that's okay. Because my wife didn't trust my plan either. But eventually she got on board with it. If you want to hear the rest of this story or part 2 to this story, man, please subscribe, like the video, share it with someone who may need this. You can subscribe to any of our other channels, but this is where I want to give most of our value to the people that need it most, which are young, inspiring creatives, entrepreneurs, influencers, content creators, anything like that. We're here for you. And I really do believe through us, you can find your story and find your people.